All right, it is the top of the hour, so I think we can go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today's webinar on expanding community solar access and affordability across the United States. We're very excited to have you all here today. Before we get started with today's presentation, I just want to go over a few quick agenda items. We'll start with logistics for today's webinar. We'll dive into market updates, talk about NCSP progress, technical assistance. We'll do some partner spotlights and then have some time for Q&A at the end of the presentation. As far as logistics go, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the solarcommunity.org website afterward. If you have any questions during today's webinar, we will do a Q&A at the end. Like I mentioned, you can enter your questions in the Q&A box that should be at the bottom of your screen. Just be aware that there is both Q&A and chat. So we ask that you all please use the Q&A box instead of the chat box. And then we're also going to have a couple polls throughout today's webinar. To answer those poll questions, you can follow the instructions at the top of the screen or go to the Poll Everywhere link that I am sending in the chat right now. So everybody should have that link easily accessible. And to kick things off, we're going to start with a poll to see who's joined us today and what your primary work role is. So if you click on that link, you'll be able to see this poll pop up. So just answer the question. We can see a live feed of everybody's results. So looks like we have a number of people from National Labs with us today, including housing, utility, academic, financial, state government. So we'll wait just a couple minutes to let you all answer those questions and get a good read for where everyone's joining. All right, it looks like we're pretty steady in our answers. Still a little bit of fluctuation, but definitely looks like the most people joining today from National Lab. So that's great to see. All right, with that, we are going to dive into introduction of today's speakers. First, we're going to be hearing from Jenny Heater of the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. We'll then hear from Kyle Fricker at the U.S. Department of Energy's Solar Energy Technologies Office. Then we'll hear from Greg Leventis at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory and Nate Dick of the Preservation of Affordable Housing, Elise Mazie of Hawaiian Electric Company, and finally Dana Harmon of the Texas Energy Property Research Institute. With that, I am going to hand things over to Jenny Heater of NREL. Jenny?
Thanks, Jackie. You can move on to the next slide. So thanks everybody for joining, and I'm here to spend a few minutes, about 10 minutes, talking about trends that we see in the community solar market. Most of this data is data that we gather here at NREL about the market, as well as through some other sources working with the University of Minnesota. So to set the stage, I want to just remind folks about the enormous opportunity that community solar has. So less than half of households and businesses cannot install a PV system on their facility that would meet their needs for that building. So we have more than half of capacity that needs to be sourced from something else other than an on-site system. When we look at deployment of solar and community solar so far, basically we see that solar is less than 10% of overall generation capacity in the United States. Of that, community solar is about 5%. So community solar is a smaller chunk of the overall solar market. And then today we'll be talking a lot about low income serving community solar. And right now that is less than 1% of the community solar market. So a lot of potential to grow each of these segments. Next slide. So the community solar market is engaging a lot of folks through the National Community Solar Partnership, which Kyle will talk a lot more about following my presentation. But I wanted to share with you some of the ways that we're tracking progress towards community solar access and frame out some of the goals of the partnership. So the partnership has three main goals. The first is to make community solar accessible to every US household. The second is to ensure community solar is affordable for every US household. And the third is to enable communities to realize supplementary benefits and other value streams. So this could be a variety of things. It could be through installing storage or realizing resiliency benefits or other things such as workforce development. So as I go through the rest of my slides, I'm going to be talking about a subset of ways that we are tracking progress towards meeting each of these goals. Next slide. So the first, when we talk about access to community solar, we like to look at geographic access. So this figure is based on our publicly available data set of community solar projects across the country. As of July of last year, there was more than 2,600 megawatts of community solar across the country. We also have more than 1,200 projects in 39 states and Washington, D.C. But you can see from this figure pretty clearly that although there are projects in 39 states and D.C., some states have a lot more capacity installed than others. In fact, we see heavy concentrations of capacity installed in Minnesota, Florida, and Massachusetts, while some states only have a handful of projects and others don't have any projects installed yet. Next slide. Another way that we look at access to community solar is by comparing market penetration. So one of the things that we've been focused on is understanding how does community solar compare to other types of solar access. So on the left-hand side, you'll see residential and non-residential solar capacity. So these are on-site behind the meter projects typically. And then the metric here is kilowatts per 1,000 residents, which is a little bit challenging to think through, but in general, you can see, the states you might be familiar with having a lot of capacity installed for residential, non-residential subscribers or hosts, California, Massachusetts, New Jersey. Then on the right-hand side, you can see our community solar capacity per capita. Minnesota really stands out in this map, but also Massachusetts and Florida. You see New York as well rising to the top, but also Arkansas, notably. So states that maybe don't have as many people, but have a lot of community solar relative to that amount. When we look at these figures and compare them, I think there are a lot of interesting insights. One is that these markets are very heavily policy driven. So states that might have higher solar resource are not necessarily the ones that have the most community solar capacity or solar capacity generally. Next slide. So what we've presented so far is data on existing installed capacity. We are also tracking capacity that's in the queue for community solar. A lot of this capacity that's planned is planned for states that already have some level of deployment. So when we look at Florida, New York, Minnesota, Massachusetts, and to some degree Colorado, those are already some of our leading states, and they're planning to add more capacity over the next few years. But we also see New Jersey, Illinois, and Hawaii coming online with more planned projects in the next few years. And I will note it can be a little bit challenging to figure out what is planned. So in this case, we have some state-specific definitions down below that figure, but In general, the planned amount is including projects that have been approved by a utility or a public utilities commission. So overall, more than 5 gigawatts are in the queue for community solar. That'll come online in various timeframes, but generally over the next few years. Next slide. All right, the next couple slides I want to talk about are related to that affordability piece. So at NREL, we do track how people are paying for community solar and basically figure out what is the average net present value from a subscriber perspective for participating. And the way you can think about net present value, if that's not a term that you use often, if it is positive, so above the dashed line there, that means that the subscriber will save money over the term of their subscription. If it's below the line, that means that they will be paying more than they would have without their subscription. So you can see over time the trend is to an increasing net present value. In 2019, it was 36 cents per watt. And then we did actually run this for projects that were developed in the first half of 2020. That increased to 43 cents per watt. So we do see an increasing value for community solar projects as more states are opening up and the market is growing. Next slide. So net present value, though, is over the lifetime of the subscription. Something else we wanted to look at was if you are a subscriber, what you be saving or how much might you be saving in the first year of your subscription? We're calling this first year bill savings. And that's really influenced by the payment model for community solar. So a lot of community solar projects are subscribed on an upfront payment model where you pay everything that you're going to pay day one. In those models, you're not going to see first year bill savings. But the models where we do see first year bill savings are ones where customers might be just paying on a monthly basis, or they might be paying a fixed discount product, for example, saving 10% relative to their electricity bill. And one of the reasons we think this is an important metric to look at, even though it doesn't apply for all subscription structures, is so that we can ensure folks of all income groups have the ability to save money day one and open up that market to customers who cannot pay upfront for a subscription. So this is our preliminary data on year one average savings. This is a capacity weighted average for all projects developed over time. So we do see, as you can see on the right-hand side, our leading states are California, Massachusetts, Maryland, DC, New York, and Minnesota. I would caveat two things. One is that the California data is limited right now to a small amount of capacity, so that's skewing some of those results. Second piece is that these subscription structures are for a general residential customer. We do also see that some states and programs provide a discounted rate for low-income customers. The data reflected here do not show that. Next slide. And so as I was talking about, some states do have provisions specific to low-income community solar. In the interest of time, we won't walk through each of these states, but the general approaches are typically a carve-out approach. So 12 states have implemented that, where either part of a project or part of a program is required to have low-income participation. The other common approach is an incentive structure where developers or subscribers might get an added bonus, cents per kilowatt hour or something similar for low-income inclusion. And some states have used both approaches. Some states have modified their approach over time. Next slide. So when we look at how much has been deployed for low-income community solar, the market is still quite small, as I spoke to in the beginning. A little over 30 megawatts have been deployed so far, and there are about 225 megawatts in pending stages. You can see the states that have been most active in the figure here, and some states definitely have more in the pending queue than has been developed, and so we should see these numbers increase over time. Next slide. All right, so we have our second polling question. So our question is, how many low-income subscribers do you intend to serve by 2025? And a reminder, you can respond at the link at the top of this slide, or click on the link that Jackie provided at the beginning of the webinar. And we'll give folks a little bit here to go to that website and respond. So it looks like we definitely have folks who are, not developing projects or programs, which we definitely anticipated. Does look like a good chunk of folks, though, do plan to include 300 or more low-income subscribers. I'm going to give folks just a little bit more time to enter any remaining answers. Great, really interesting to see. Yeah, a lot of folks in that 300 plus category. So thank you guys all for responding. I'll go ahead and move to the next slide. And this is my wrap-up slide. The other thing we're tracking in terms of ancillary benefits associated with community solar is how storage might be included. So right now, Massachusetts is really the leader in community solar that's paired with storage. You can see in the figure the planned and operational projects. So in blue, you see those that don't have a battery, and in yellow, those with a battery. So pretty split there between, nearly half have and half don't have a battery. But going forward, a lot more of the systems are planned to have a battery included. So with that, I will turn it over to Kyle Fricker with the Department of Energy. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Jenny, and thanks for your team's work to help us contextualize our work with real market data and analysis. It's really helpful. So I work at the solar office at DOE, and I'm excited to share a progress update with you all. And I encourage folks to ask questions along the way. As they come up, we'll try to address as many as possible at the end of the hour. But first, we'll start with an overview of the partnership. So the partnership is designed to support partners as they implement community solar projects and programs to meet their local needs. So first, there's the network itself with the online community platform, various meetings, webinars, and other tools to facilitate engagement. Then there are collaboratives or structured groups of partners that form around common barriers in specific community solar sectors. And third, we have technical assistance, or TA, as you'll probably hear a lot throughout today's meeting. And those are capabilities to provide individual support to partners on unique challenges they may be facing. And all of these efforts will feed into resources and tools that are disseminated within the partnership as well as beyond. So on subsequent slides, I'll talk about each in a little more detail, starting with the network itself. Go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so starting with our partner statistics, since we launched the National Community Solar Partnership last April, we have grown to over 450 members from over 300 partner organizations. And that represents 43 states, plus the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and the US Virgin Islands. So we are beyond thrilled with the geographic coverage we have so far, but I think we still have some work to do, so let's continue to fill in the map, and I encourage you all to invite your peers and colleagues across the country to join this effort. Next slide. Partners span the nonprofit, solar development, state and local government, utility, community organization, and financial sectors, and everything in between. As it turns out, there are a number of different organization types that have an interest or stake in community solar, and we designed this program to be inclusive with a low barrier low barrier to join and engage with the goal of building capacity across the whole ecosystem. Go to the next slide. And here we just wanted to give you a little dose of inspiration for all those who called in today. It's hard to look at these goals and not get excited when you see the ambition that our partners are displaying. When we're talking about megawatts of community solar deployment or low income subscription and electricity bill savings targets. These are just a few that I wanted to spotlight, but I encourage you all to poke around on the community platform and see what your fellow partners are looking to accomplish. And that brings me to the next slide, which is our community platform, which is a resource that our partners have access to that can bring significant value in terms of finding peers that you could potentially work with and share resources with, learning from one another, identifying and matching collaborators via the partner directory, or just keeping up to date with NCSP opportunities and events. It's very user-friendly. It's like any social networking platform and represents one of the main communication channels for the partnership. And this slide just gives a few examples of posts of folks sharing relevant events, crowdsourcing ideas, or soliciting feedback on what they're working on. So encourage folks to check this out after the call. Next slide. We're also excited to share another resource for our partners and the broader sector. The National Renewable Energy Lab, NREL, recently redesigned their Solar in Your Community website, solarinyourcommunity.org. So most importantly, I wanted to direct you to the page highlighted on the screen, which is the updated resource hub, which is a searchable and filterable resource database. And these tools provide help navigating what is already a large and will be growing library of community solar resources that we intend to build out over the years of this partnership. Next slide, please. So under the partnership, we have the two collaborative groups, as I was mentioning, and we have two currently that include over 20 multifamily affordable housing organizations and municipal utilities. As I was saying, these are structured groups of peer organizations that seek to accelerate progress towards common goals through peer learning and technical assistance, and ultimately develop replicable solutions that push the whole sector forward. These two collaborators are focused on sectors that have tremendous potential that were identified in previous efforts at the DOE, but they face unique barriers that have slowed development. So that's why we're working on these two to begin with. Go to the next slide, please. Collaboratives are roughly 2-year efforts with a flow like described on this slide. The first collaboratives are entering the critical work stage in green and beginning to execute on their peer learning and technical assistance strategy. And then later, the focus will shift more towards dissemination of the resources and working with others to help them replicate successful models. Next slide, please. And this will just give you a little more detail on the housing collaborative. So through facilitated peer learning sessions and technical webinars, members are learning about a number of relevant topics, including how they can maximize tenant benefits that subscribers receive and what options the partners have when it comes to financing their future projects. Also on the slide is this is an example of a customized TA effort that's planning to help and working with some of the partners as they are at earlier planning stages to screen their complex portfolios for the best community solar opportunities, which was identified as a big stumbling block that was holding folks back. Next slide, please. On the municipal utility collaborative side of things, partners are receiving assistance with program evaluation and customer engagement as they look to design new community solar offerings. And in partnership with the American Public Power Association, the collaborative is starting dissemination early by helping utilities access existing resources and sharing best practices at an upcoming conference session. Similar to the Housing Collaborative, a customized TA effort seeks to help a subgroup of the collaborative members work through the process of planning their first community solar project. We're really excited to see the progress on both of these collaboratives. Next up, please. So lastly, I wanted to share a few highlights on the technical assistance work that we have done to date within the broader partnership group, so outside of the collaboratives. Across 2 rounds of TA in 2020, we provided assistance to 37 partners in 20 states, as you can see, spanning all the major regions of the country, including Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. The majority of recipients were nonprofits, oftentimes community organizations and developers, with governments, utilities, and academic institutions also represented. Next slide, please. So technical assistance is one of, if not the biggest perk of being a partner. You have the opportunity to request individualized support for help with specific local challenges. And this slide is here to give you a sense of some of the recent and ongoing TA efforts arising from the second round of technical assistance. And you'll hear more about technical assistance when our guest speakers have a chance to share what they're working on. But first up there is the International Center for Appropriate and Sustainable Technology, who is getting help to analyze bill savings to ensure they are able to meet a minimum benefit threshold for multifamily projects in Colorado. Second, there is Arizona State University's SEEK project that is receiving assistance with financial modeling for community solar models with faith-based organization anchors. Third up is Michigan Energy Options, who is exploring options and regulatory considerations around leveraging municipal properties for new community ownership models. And last on the slide is X Utility, who's receiving support as they work to ensure equitable benefit distribution for a new tribal community solar program. So as you can see, there's a lot of activities underway and certainly more to come. And yeah, we're excited with the progress made to date. We can go to the next slide, which is a poll. So we're asking you all to respond to the question, what are the current bottlenecks in order for community solar to provide access to all Americans? This is a free response poll, so feel free to.
Yeah, so this one, you can type in your own responses, and then once people start submitting their responses, you'll be able to vote up or down on them if you agree or disagree. So we'll be able to see the top responses.
Thank you, Jackie.
We'll give another minute for people to enter their responses and vote.
So seeing some state policy, cost barriers, working with utilities or utility regulators could be a barrier, knowledge gaps. Great, well, this is really helpful and interesting, and yeah, I guess we'll keep it open for a few more seconds. All right, so hopefully this gets the juices flowing, and we're excited to try to help you work on addressing some of these barriers through your participation in the partnership. And with that, I'll thank you for your time today. I encourage you to stick around for the Q&A at the end, and I'll pass the baton to my colleague Greg Leventis at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate it. That was very interesting, and thanks also for the great overview some of the statistics and some of the examples on technical assistance that the NCSP has provided to date. Hello, everyone. I'm Greg Leventis. I'm a program manager at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, and I'm coordinating the technical assistance for the NCSP. The NCSP offers TA to support partners in achieving the 3 goals of the partnership, which are, of course, making community solar more accessible, ensuring that it's affordable, and enabling communities to realize the supplemental benefits and other value streams that, of community solar. So I want to give you a quick overview of NCSP TA, starting with, and can we go to the next slide? We're going to start with the announcement that today we are opening another round of TA. This is round 3. The applications are open today, so you can go to this link, this first one, the first bullet point, to apply. You see a screenshot to the right here of the application itself. And I'd like to take a few minutes to let you know a bit more about NCSP's TA. So first, in terms of eligibility, above all, to be eligible for NCSP TA, you have to be an NCSP partner. You can register at the second link down here. It's easy and it's quick. So if you're not a partner, just pop on that link and you can be one very quickly. Now, the other requirements are that individual applicants have to be citizens or permanent residents of the United States, and public or private entities have to be legally formed in and maintain a primary place of business in the U.S. Also, TA application isn't for duplicative work. So, for example, work that's happening in another DOE project. Finally, you can apply in round 3 regardless of previous applications. So if you've received TA before through NCSP, you can still apply. And if you applied but weren't selected before, you can still apply and get another chance. Next slide, please. So I'm gonna turn to what is available now. And this, first off, NCSP TA is free for selected applicants. Now, Kyle talked about a few of the subject matter areas that our TA can cover. And at a high level, those areas include, but aren't limited to, technical areas like co-location challenges or integrating community solar with other technologies, outreach and engagement, project finance, regulatory issues, program design. But here on this slide, we have listed some of the types of technical assistance that you can get. So consultations, presentations, support for workshops, technical review of plans and documents, general information and education, technical analysis and modeling of potential program cost benefits or impacts, exploratory and foundational research, and data analysis, evaluation, model and tool development. And again, these are some of the different types of assistance that's available. So next slide, please. Okay, so this is the timeline. This is a timeline for round 3. The applications are open today, hooray. On March 17th, we're going to hold a webinar where we'll go over the application process in more detail, and we'll answer questions about the application itself and the application process, and you'll be hearing from us soon about that. March 31st will be the application deadline. And then in late April, we will notify applicants that have been selected. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to go over to some partners that we have who have agreed to talk about some of their experiences. First off, this is folks from Preservation of Affordable Housing, Hawaiian Electric Company, and Texas Energy Poverty Research Institute. The first one is Nathaniel Dick of Preservation of Affordable Housing. I'm going to ask Nate to hop on here because we're not sure that we've got him exactly where we want him. Oh, it looks like there you are. Hello. And can we hear you?
I think so, hopefully.
I can hear you. Great. Okay, great. So Nate is Director, Energy and Capital Projects for Preservation of Affordable Housing, which is a nonprofit developer, owner, and operator of more than 12,000 affordable homes in 11 states in the District of Columbia. And as a member of POAH's design and building performance team, Nate's responsible for energy projects, design and construction standards, preventative maintenance stewardship, and IT strategies to improve portfolio oversight. So I will now hand it over to you, Nate, and I will give you a heads up when you've got about a minute left.
All right, thanks, Greg. And hi, everyone. Thanks to the National Community Solar Partnership for inviting me to speak today. Yeah, so with POA, for background, we are, like Greg said, a national nonprofit developer, owner operator. We began work in 2001. And since then, this year's our 20th anniversary, we've grown considerably to just under 12,000 affordable homes in 11 states and the District of Columbia. But our primary mission is to preserve, create, and sustain affordable, healthy homes that support economic security, racial equity, and access to opportunity for all. You can advance the slide. Or maybe I do, I don't know. In terms of the design and building performance team, I'm one member of a team of four, and it's an absolute blessing that we have a team that's focused on this design and building performance for our organization as an affordable housing owner and developer. In the 2 years I've been with POA, my role has been to collect and analyze utility data and prioritize sites for discrete energy retrofits or renewable energy systems so that we can reduce energy use, save money, and further promote our mission. A lot of our new construction and major renovation work does include deep energy retrofits and renewables to achieve these goals. And a lot of times this is happening during a syndication of tax credits or during a refinance or a recapitalization. The remainder of the portfolio is really where I work within, and they have to balance the parameters of capital budgets, replacement reserves, and operating income in order to get better performing buildings. So these sites are really where POA is looking to leverage the National Community Solar Partnership. You can go to the next slide. So why did we join? I mean, bottom line, we can do a lot more in our existing portfolio. And we need help finding the sweet spot where solar incentives, site physical characteristics, metering structures, and policies favor community solar development. Our solar experience is essentially the following. There's a couple pictures up on the top left going across the middle that are POA-owned sites, solar systems. But we only own about 311 kW of our own solar equipment, and since 2010 that's as much as we've installed, and we're promoting that during our new construction projects and our refis and recapitalizations, but there's a lot of our portfolio that needs attention and help. So only one site has utilized the solar PPA agreement, a 40 kW site in DC. And a lot of our sites have actually taken advantage of net metering credits and alternative on-bill credits. A few I'll talk about are highlighted on here that are sort of upcoming opportunities in 2020. But basically dating back to 2015, we've had about 803,000 kWh annually allocated to us that we could purchase at a discount. And that's again in Massachusetts predominantly.
Minute left, Nate.
Oh, all right. So this type of approach has really picked up steam. We've partnered with Kearsarge Energy in Massachusetts and Trajectory in Illinois to get some more of these net metering credit opportunities through community solar sites that are going to vastly benefit our communities and our portfolios. But really, the National Community Solar Partnership has helped us get our arms around all the variety of funding, policy, regulations, and opportunities in the states we operate. They have helped us develop a plan and goal setting for furthering our mission regarding renewable energy. They've paired us with experts from Urban Ingenuity and from obviously the NREL, and they've offered to review proposals through their technical assistance and help us with reviewing financing structures for our sites. So bottom line, I know we can do more, and National Community Solar Partnership is helping us do that work. There's a picture of the action plan worksheet and the community forum that I frequent weekly. So it's been a great resource. So thanks again for inviting me, and thanks.
Well, thanks a lot, Nate. That was excellent. I appreciate it. There's the online community action plan worksheet. I would like to just have a quick reminder to everyone to please put questions that you have into the Q&A box that is on the right side there. And next, we are pleased to have Elise Megzi from Hawaiian Electric. Elise is a program manager for community and commercial programs at Hawaiian Electric. She provides management of customer energy resources, strategic initiatives, policies, and new programs as they evolve in response to public, regulatory, and the company's business and strategic drivers. Elise is also on a team responsible for Hawaiian Electric's community-based renewable energy efforts. And the community-based renewable energy program is Hawaii's initiative to dramatically expand access to the economic, environmental, and societal benefits of renewable energy. So, Elise, I will turn it over to you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Greg. We can advance to the next slide, please. I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit with you about our shared solar program. For a quick introduction to Hawaiian Electric, we serve the islands of Oahu, Maui County, and Hawaii Island. Each island grid stands alone. Hawaii leads the nation in rooftop solar. Across the state, 18% of single-family homes have rooftop photovoltaics, and on the most populous island of Oahu, 1 in 3 single-family homes have rooftop solar. Our renewable portfolio standard is consolidated across the islands we serve, and in 2020, we were able to achieve 35% renewable energy, and our goal is to reach 100% by 2045. We realize that to make it to 100%, we need to make sure we're not leaving anyone behind. So we're launching a new phase of community-based renewable energy we call shared solar. It has the potential to exceed 235 megawatts of capacity, which in some jurisdictions may not seem like a lot, but that capacity is comparable to the generating capacity of Hawaii Island or Maui County, as you can see on this slide. So it's very impactful for us. Next slide, please. Through NCSP's Technical Assistance Program, we had the honor to work with the National Renewable Energy Lab, and we utilized the Elevate Energy Community Solar Business Case tool to model scenarios to see how shared solar pencils out for subscribers and developers. Next slide, please. One of the first projects we modeled was a 249 kilowatt project, and in our rules and our framework, that's considered a small project. And the question we ask is, for small projects, is the predetermined 15-cent per kilowatt hour bill credit enough subscriber savings to motivate them to participate? And we also wondered, is that enough of a credit to make a viable business model for developers, and what potential options they may have? So is 15 cents enough? Maybe. The models showed a positive net present value for subscribers, so a positive indicator, but Hawaii is a unique market. Our shared solar program is trying to reduce costs.
About a minute left.
CBRE market. Okay, thank you. Other markets are willing to pay a bit more to participate in shared solar. So we have opportunity here, but it's going to look a little bit different from what folks are used to elsewhere. The business viability was a little bit questionable. We manipulated the model to reduce land lease payments, reduce interconnection costs, and also just ultimately reduce the cost per watt. And with each of those things, we were able to improve the owner's net present value. Land is finite on our island and is one of the most valuable things we have here. So we know that projects this size will need to be on as many roofs as possible. Next slide, please. We also modeled a larger project and found similar findings. It's a potentially viable opportunity for subscribers and developers, but we do need to reduce our interconnection costs. Our Public Utilities Commission, our regulators, are putting pressure on us to do that, but we can't be pushed so far that we reduce the reliability of the system. So we are working hard to make sure that we are able to reduce those interconnection costs. And we also know that our program will be successful if developers can find affordable land. So we ran a request for information, hoping to pair interested developers with landowners that are interested in hosting a site. So if you know a party that's interested in participating in our program, please have them reach out. Next slide, please. We know we're a challenging market, and this work helped us to define the specific challenges we have. We're no longer going off of gut feeling, and we now have a tool, thanks to the Elevate Energy Community Solar Business Model tool, to run scenarios and help solve the problem. We're constantly learning, and through work like this, we can better appreciate the challenges and how we can help. So mahalo, NREL, we learned a lot, and we now have a better understanding of that business case tool, and we're empowered to continue this analysis. And I have some contact information on the next slide if you'd like to reach out and learn more.
Well, thanks so much, Elise. That was excellent. We really appreciate it. Again, if you have any questions for any of the speakers, the partners, the DOE folks, or the lab folks, please put them in the Q&A box. And finally, we are delighted to have Dana Harmon from the Texas Energy Poverty Research Institute, or TEPRI. Dana is the executive director of TEPRI, which is a collaboration and empowerment of participants with the common purpose of better understanding and addressing energy and fuel poverty in Texas. She has overall strategic and operational responsibility for executing TEPRI's mission to collect actionable data that industry partners can use to mitigate energy costs of low-income consumers across Texas. So I will turn it over to you, Dana.
Thank you, Greg, and hello, everyone. It's really an honor to be here. Thank you to NCSP for having me and for the valuable partnership, and what an incredible opportunity to learn from our partners across the country. As Greg mentioned, my name is Dana Harmon, and I have the privilege of leading TEPRI, the Texas Energy Poverty Research Institute. Next slide, please. Our mission is to inspire lasting energy solutions for low-income communities across the state of Texas. And through our research, we're working to accelerate the move towards an energy system that's clean, secure, affordable, and supports healthy and financially stable communities. We're a 501c3 based in Austin, Texas, and we work with researchers and experts from inside and outside the energy sector to conduct research, build evidence, and develop solutions that we can then test for solutions that can scale. In our work, we try to link community voices with the science and data and innovative partnerships for economic development and enhance community well-being through energy. Next slide, please. So we launched this work because here in Texas, underserved communities have been left out of clean energy investment opportunities. And we think that community solar represents a meaningful opportunity to design energy systems that increase the adoption of distributed energy resources to underserved communities. However, here in Texas, given our competitive electricity market structure, which has gotten a lot of media attention recently, given the extreme weather impacts event that we experienced last week, models are quite challenging in our competitive electricity market. So we undertook an initiative to develop a community solar model that works in our competitive electricity market without the state incentives that many other projects are able to enjoy. We had a few concrete objectives for this model development. First and foremost, we wanted to make sure that we were able to direct the financial and environmental benefits of local solar investment to underserved community members that traditionally don't have access.
About a minute left, Dana.
Oh my, thank you. We wanted a model that was sustainable and could scale within ERCOT without additional philanthropic investment, and that does not require policy change in our existing environment. A few unique aspects of our model. We have a model that is behind the meter of a local commercial large power user that just directs an energy stipend to local underserved households. So it's a little bit different than the traditional community solar model that we think of. One of the benefits is that this is independent of a retail electric provider in our state, and also is working directly with community engagement. I'll speak quickly about the technical assistance piece. I want to say many thanks to Ted Redmond of Pale Blue Dot for his support. And we ask for technical assistance with due diligence of our model. He assisted us with a viability analysis and developed some recommendations on scalability and potential improvements. And really the key to the model was that based on this due diligence, we feel that the model has been deemed a viable concept, which has potential benefit to all project partners, most importantly, including local community members, but then also commercial partners and financial partners. I'll stop there because I know we're out of time, but happy to take questions on the model as may be appropriate.
Thanks so much, Dana. I really appreciate everyone for presenting, and I'm going to turn it back over to Jenny Heater.
Yeah, thank you everyone for presenting today. I know it was a tight timeline and a big task, so I appreciate it. And we are getting some questions rolling in, so maybe give folks a few more minutes to expand on stuff they didn't get to cover. But first, just as a reminder, we've had some questions about the recording and slides and joining the partnership. So in the chat, I've posted a link to solarinyourcommunity.org, which is where we will be posting the recording and slides from today. We will also be posting them in our community platform for the National Community Solar Partnership. So if folks do not have access to that, fill out that registration form that Greg mentioned and is in the chat as well. And then you'll get access to that and be able to utilize all the other resources there. So got a few questions rolling in, and feel free to keep submitting questions over the next couple minutes. Elise, I'm gonna ask you some questions first. There are two questions related to what the modeling included or didn't include. So Ken, I'm sorry, they keep going up and down in my feed. So did the Hawaii project study combining community solar subscriptions with energy efficiency program offerings for the subscribers?
Thank you for the question. We definitely recognize the importance of energy efficiency, but as I understand, based on the modeling, that was not included.
Great, and one more for you is related to the self-build team at Hawaiian Electric. Question and comment I was hoping to hear more about the self-build team and where you are competing with other developers for community solar projects and the needed interconnection info, process, and costs. Are you aware of other states or maybe utilities having this sort of self-build model?
Again, thank you for the question. It's a little bit difficult one for me to answer as it's so multifaceted. I'd like to be able to share with you more information. So if you could please refer to the contact information I shared, and please reach out to our team to that CBRE-info email address. We'll be sure to try and help answer your questions. I'm not intricately familiar with what the self-build team is doing. We have a code of conduct that keeps us separated. And as for other utility models that have a self-build option, I'm not familiar with that either. But please get in touch. Let's communicate some more.
Thanks, Elise. I have a broader question maybe for our folks who have gotten TA. Feel free to chime in. So question is about, are there particular examples for financing that have been successful to date for LMI, lower income, lower and middle income communities? Comment is, I really like the DHA Denver Housing Authority example with community solar. So maybe Dana or Nate, I don't know if you feel like you have something to add on financing approaches for LMI community solar.
I'll jump in quickly and echo that it continues to be a challenge, I think, for financing community solar. And we are seeing some rather creative models evolving, especially when we can involve the utility. Here, we have talked with a couple of capital partners who, part of the advantage is they're able to monetize the tax credits. And are interested in the model that I was just sharing, but I agree wholeheartedly that it continues to be a challenge. I don't know if maybe Nate has some additional insights to add.
No, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, it's still a case by case situation. Trying to find the right partner, trying to get the right tax equity partner to work with, and sort of have it streamlined at the right site where it's properly metered and all the benefits can stream to residents. So I don't have I guess a silver bullet in terms of response.
And a little more on a subscriber level, I feel like it's the pay-as-you-go option that's really important to get them to participate. That way they don't need so much financing and can see a little more savings from the beginning.
Great, thank you guys. And I've got a comment from Tom Stanton about a paper he wrote on low-income solar insights, which has many case study examples. So Tom, I'd invite you to put a link to that in the chat to share with everybody. Happy to do that. And I think it is on our resource guide and solarinyourcommunity.org as well. One last question, I think, then we probably need to close it out here. The question is around any California-based projects or planned development in the queue. Who do we reach out to for support on California community solar projects? And I'll maybe take part of that, but invite some other comments as well. So in California, we do see deployment of community solar through municipal utilities. So Sacramento Municipal Utility District has done quite a bit of community solar and is starting to focus on low income inclusion as well. We also see some programs that are run by the investor-owned utilities and do have opportunities for third-party participation, third-party developer participation. I would say just generally, yeah, if you're in need of help, you're in California and have questions or in need of help, feel free to apply for technical assistance. As Greg reviewed, that is, something we can help with. Submit an application and, be clear about what your question is. Anybody else have thoughts about California and community solar that they'd like to share? Great. Well, we have a few remaining questions, but I know we're out of time. So I would encourage folks to join the NCSP, and you can submit your questions to other partners that way in our platform. But I want to make sure that we have some time to thank all of our presenters today. Make sure that folks have time to check out the links that are posted on this site, so that you can be familiar with all the resources that are available. One last one to highlight is a new presentation that NREL just published. This includes a little bit more data on the emerging states than I presented today, but has the figures and data behind what I shared in this quick webinar today. So with that, I think we will go ahead and close it out. Thank you again, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you virtually again throughout the rest of the year. Thanks.